do a test here. Can everyone hear me all right? You can see me?
Yes.
All right, there you go. All right, folks, we're going to officially get this public forum rolling, rocking and rolling here. On behalf of Western New York for Grand Island toll barrier removal, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us tonight for this forum. I tell you, it's been a long journey getting it to this point. It's been a curious one, but a good one. Citizen advocacy takes you in all different directions. The group that I started in October started off as a curiosity. I didn't know how many people would want to become a part of it, but I tell you, business has been booming since we opened it up. Today we have over 3,100 supporters on it, and our voice has never been louder. Over the past few weeks, we initiated a hard push for phase 1 of our petition drive, and we had success in that. As of last night, we completed the petition drive with over 1,000 signatures. And that, mind you, is without one copy of the paper itself being handed out. That's all online there. And that's all from you, the people, the supporters of this movement. One thing that's been different with this movement as compared to other attempts in the past, this is a movement for the people, by the people. This isn't partisan. This isn't about making a name for anyone. This is about getting us home on time at night and putting money back in our pockets. Now, the range that you paid to go over those bridges, it varies wildly. If you're so fortunate as to have proven your residency on Grand Island, you pay just 9 cents a time to pass over the bridges. However, if you're unfortunate enough to not have Easy Pass, you have to pay $1 every time. And that adds up quickly. I'm a numbers guy. I like to see how much this is worth. What does this all add up to at the end of the day? And truly for the working class, which is the composition of those who primarily do not have Easy Pass, they don't have the cashless infrastructure, they don't have the debit card, they don't have a credit card, they simply don't have the means to get Easy Pass. They have no access to the discount that's there. These are the same people who work 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And we're trying to get savings for them to the tune of $520. What I have with me today is representation of that. There's the check. There it is in all of its glory. Every year, we are paying $520 to use the bridges. We are doing everything we can to get that taken down. We want the tolls gone. To be clear, anything is better than nothing. It seems there's been change across the state to have to change the way tolling as we know it today is conducted. The Tappan Zee Bridge, just outside New York City, has a cashless toll system, and the Hamminger toll barriers were announced just a few weeks ago they're going to have their tolls turned cashless. Those are 2 toll exchanges downstate. I see no reason why Western New York could not be next. I just think anything is better than the status quo as we know it today. I'm fighting to get the tolls taken out, but if we could at least start with getting cashless tolls, at least that's something. It solves half of the problem. We're not going to be stuck waiting in traffic, and we're not going to be sitting in our own pollution as we wait there. But to be clear, the push here is directed at the elimination of the tolls outright. Senator Chris Jacobs and Assemblyman Morinello have introduced legislation that would eliminate the tolls altogether. We've had a great deal of support that's come from the leadership locally. not a senator yet. Supervisor Nate McMurray and I have worked together on setting up the previous press conference you saw. We've really been working together closely on it. And there's been a few other representatives that could not be present today because Albany is in session to speak directly to it. However, their offices are represented. Senator Chris Jacobs has a representative here, and Assemblyman Morinello also does. And to be clear, there's been a few others who have shown up, who have expressed their support, rather. City of Tonawanda Mayor Rick Davis sends his regrets and his support for and solidarity for our movement. And we also have the Town of Tonawanda Mayor, or Supervisor, excuse me, Eminger in attendance tonight. So this is going to be simple how we're going to do this, because after all, this is a public forum. We are eager to turn the floor over to you. Next, we're going to have Jim Sharp from Grand Island take the podium. Then we'll have the Niagara Global Tourism Institute Director, Pat Whalen, take the mic. And once they're done, we are going to open the podium up one at a time to anyone who would like to be heard.
And who are you?
Who am I? I'm just an average guy. I'm Brian Michelle. I'm a citizen advocate. I am right there with you, stuck in traffic, waiting to pay $1 every day. I just want the tolls gone and to be able to get home to my family at night. I swear there are some days I spend more time negotiating traffic than I do with my children, and that is worth fighting for. So we'll open the floor up to public comment. Again, that's going to be limited to, we're kindly asking you limit it to 3 minutes apiece. We don't want to give anyone the hook here. And after that, the final segment will be for any civic leadership we have present, whether they're business leaders, elected officials. They will have the floor last before we close this for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Evening. I am Jim Sharp. I'm the Deputy Supervisor for the town of Grand Island. A resident of Grand Island of over 50 years, and proudly a resident of Niagara Falls for 16 years. I said that out too.
29.
29 years old. Awesome. Therefore, I've lived with the tolls for a long, long time. Moved to Grand Island in '64. Been there ever since. And back then, it was just finishing the second Grand Island Bridge. Tonight, I'm representing the town of Grand Island, and also to convey the disappointment of Nathan McMurray, our town supervisor, who could not be here because he's already hosting another event that has already been scheduled. But if he could be here, he would be here. And he would be a lot more, what is that word, flamboyant? Rabble-rouser? There he is. He's been an awesome supervisor, and over these few years, this year with him has been an honor and an exciting time to be with him. Grand Island has been facing the tolls for a lot of years. And Grand Island paid a price for those tolls. It paid a price for those bridges. The bridges were built in 1935 and again in 1962. And during that time, they were told that when the bridges were paid off, there'd be no more tolls. In the process, there was more expenditures than that people may not know. And that is that Grand Island forfeited nearly 15% of his property to have the bridges. So Buckhorn Park, Beaver Island Park, the West River Parkway were all a contribution by the town leaders at that time to get a bridge for it. Now, it's paid a dear price because that 15% also means 15% of taxes that will not be collected ever. So we have paid a price, and we're continuing to pay that price because we have to pay a price to get home. That hasn't changed. For years, we've had two fights over the past 30 years to turn around and do something with those tolls. And in both cases, we had some concessions made. Both cases, they were settled out of court. Yes, Grand Island only pays 9 cents per person, 9 cents per trip per person per day, if you will. That accumulates almost about $2 million a year. So when you start to look at the amount of money that is actually generated by the community of Grand Island is enormous. The price isn't stopping there for the town of Grand Island, nor is it stopping there for the town that's around Grand Island, including town of Dewandas, including Niagara Falls itself. And that is for them to have the commute between those two communities as well. That impact of having the continuous flow of people that will migrate from town to town and city to city is really encumbered by the fact that people don't want to pay that toll, and if they want not to pay that toll, they're making a trip that is long and hard to get around. We believe that it's time, because now, if you were to look at the bridges during construction time, we pay a heavy toll because we're sometimes waiting hours just to get off our island to go to work. It's paying a toll on the fact of kids, they're going to UB, from Niagara Falls to UB. They're paying that price every day to go to over that bridge to get to school. So there's more that we don't see sometimes that is really seriously impacting what those bridges really have on our society and what's going on. I know Niagara Falls is working very hard to get a second day stay in Niagara Falls so they can turn around and help its economy grow. And those bridges somewhat are encumbering that. The other thing that comes into play is you had the Thruway Authority or even the DOT to evaluate the Grand Island bridges. And then listen to them, they'll say Grand Island bridges are rated at an F. That means it's almost time for another bridge. It took 20 years to get a bridge moving from the first bridge to get the second set. We need to start moving now if we want to get another set. 20 years. Can we all wait that long? If they don't go to cashless, they're never going to get the flow. If you're not going to get the flow, we're never going to see that heady, steady flow going from Niagara Falls and Buffalo to turn around and build its economies. So we stand together, and one of the things I've been asked to do by Nathan is to turn around and say, the politicians can speak all day and stand in front of a camera, but it isn't going to get done unless you all stand up and help. We're looking for leadership, and thank God to Brian and the people working with him, because I once was a citizen advocate. I chaired the taxpayers group on Grand Island called the Grand Island Taxpayers Association from 1980 through 1987. It's not a heavy lift if everybody pulls, but it is a heavy lift if only a few do it. It isn't going to be done by the politicians as much as it's going to be done by you, because the politicians represent you. So I want to say thank you all for being here and listening to us, and I hope that you will join and stand with us to get it done. Thank you.
And I'm Pat Whalen, I'll be brief, but this is where I work every day, the Niagara Global Tourism Institute, so thank you all for being here. Thank you for your interest in the toll situation. I have a little different tack than the Grand Island residents and commuters do, because I'm not smart enough to know how those bridges should be paid for. But I do know that the barriers themselves, in my opinion, represent a psychological barrier between Buffalo and Niagara Falls. And I know myself, I live near the University of Buffalo Amherst campus. If I do a triptych or a MapQuest, it shows me to go across Grand Island, and I almost never do that. I take the long way, which is 5 minutes longer. The reason I do that is because I know that on many occasions, there's a little fender bender just beyond the toll booths, and that causes the traffic backup. So the reason for that is cars are stopping or near stopping if they have easy pass, but so are trucks. And as the truck goes through that toll booth, they start climbing a very steep hill. And now there's 5 or 6 lanes of traffic of cars that want to go around that slow-moving truck, and that causes fender benders. There's never really any serious accidents there because the vehicles are all moving very slowly. But there are fender benders, and there's no shoulders. So if there's a fender bender, people get out of their cars and exchange information, and while they're doing that, the traffic backs up. And I see that frequently, so I more often than not avoid those tolls and come around the other way. So now I'm in this job in the Niagara Global Tourism Institute. We're not in the attraction business. Destination Niagara USA does that. But what we try to do is enhance the visitor experience while they're here. So one of the things that became apparent to me when I got here is that in the winter, we have a very slow period in Niagara Falls from a tourism perspective. And the businesses, Mr. Weber here, his family has a couple of businesses in town, and they struggle in the winter because there's not enough traffic, not enough customers in those businesses. Wouldn't it be wonderful if people in Buffalo and Erie County didn't have a psychological barrier presented to them to come here and spend some money in the winter and frequent the bars and restaurants and attractions that we have in Niagara Falls. So I think the cashless collection is the way to go. I think it would be very, very inexpensive. The most money that would be spent by the state would be actually for the destruction and removal of the toll booths that are there. I don't think it would cost much more to put up gantries over the road than it would cost to put a sign over the road today, right? Signs are all lighted, so they have electricity to them. All these gantries need is electricity and an internet connection, and they can debit your Easy Pass. If you don't have an Easy Pass, take the picture of your license plate and send you a bill. I used to be in the logistics business. In 1997, I had trucks every day in Toronto. They traveled on Highway 407. Highway 407 was built from scratch as a toll road, never had toll booths. So in 1997, in my trucks, I had transponders that are very similar to Easy Pass, and I never paid it. I always paid a toll, but I never had to stop. Those trucks would go through at 100 kilometers an hour, and we would be billed. If I went in my personal car when I didn't have a transponder, the highway would take a picture of my license plate, get my address from New York State DOT, and send me a bill, which I pay. I have a place in Canada, so this happens to me all summer long when I go to my place in Canada. So my point there is that it was in 1997. 2017 is 20 years later. This is not new technology. This technology has existed for a long time. New York State is behind the times by having people stand in that booth with their hand out asking for a buck. They're breathing fumes all day long. They do it for their entire career. They break dust from brakes. A lot of it is asbestos dust. This is an unhealthy job. I don't believe people should be doing jobs that are unhealthy when there's technology available to replace those jobs, and those people can work elsewhere in New York State. There's certainly lots of jobs being created in New York State. So I'm all about the cashless tolls. At least to start, I'll let Nate and Jim Sharp battle about the money, but I think right now it's really a good idea to eliminate the traffic problems that are created by it and the psychological barrier that the tolls present. Turn it back over to Brian.
So there you have it. The floor has been set. We are now going to open up for public commentary. Again, we're going to try and limit that to no more than 3 minutes apiece. Please be considerate. Please remember you're on the air. Do not swear. This is a family-friendly forum. So with that, is there anyone who would like to go first here? Or second? Excellent.
My name is Nancy Killian. I live on Grand Island.
Please come on up here. Bit of a shuffle. Yes, right there.
I'm Nancy Killian. I live on Grand Island. I was a co-complainant against the Thruway Authority 32 years ago when they last tried to raise the tolls for Grand Island residents. I've worn my T-shirt from that event. Grand Island, home of unfairly tolled residents. I read an article in the Buffalo News a couple weeks ago that states it will be very expensive to put cashless tolls in place. And I am afraid that will be just an excuse to float bonds, to extend the tolls longer than they should be. It's my understanding that the tolls should have been removed because the bond debt we had would have been eliminated in 1996. However, at that time, some people passed legislation in the state that tied us in with the canal system. However, a couple years ago, or maybe last year, the canal system was separated from the Thruway Authority and is now under the Power Authority. So we don't have any debt right now to justify those tolls. Why have cashless tolls if we can get rid of them entirely? And not just for Grand Island residents, for everybody. The bridges have been paid for. And it can be turned over to the DOT, which will maintain and operate it. That is the solution. If I can help in any way, I have all my court papers from our court case. And believe me, we were not selfish people. At the time I was involved in that court case, I couldn't even drive a car. So we genuinely were looking for getting rid of the tolls. There was a politician at the time who did pass legislation to appease the Thruway Authority, and his son ended up with a job with the Thruway Authority. I had nothing to do with that. I'm sorry if I took more than 3 minutes.
All very well said, all valid points. Would anyone else like to come up? Thoughts, concerns? Excellent, we have a taker.
I'm Mike Jablon, and I've been on Grand Island since 1978. So, and I also drove truck, so I was back and forth over the bridges constantly for 30 years. The traffic has increased just phenomenally over the 30 years, and it's time for these tolls to come out. You shouldn't be coming home from work and sitting in the traffic for 30 minutes every day trying to do that. Then you hear on the radio that there's a backup at the bridge. Now you're driving through Tonawanda all the way to Niagara Falls to go all the way around. This is it. We've had enough. The bridges are paid for. They've been resurfaced. They're painted over and over. We can't even remember what bridges they're painting because they're painting them constantly on them. The tolls are coming down this time. The people are not going away. The governor should hear us. They want to put Niagara Falls on the map again. Buffalo has been being rebuilt. Buffalo needs Niagara Falls needs Buffalo. If we can't have people flowing across Grand Island to go to these places, we're not going to get that. We got a great chance now to have that moving back and forth. They're going to put an information center on Grand Island. Who's going to pay $1 to come over there and see the information or sit in the traffic? They're going to sit in the traffic and get off on River Road and never bother. This is it. We're not going away. The governor should get on board. Some of our senators from New York should get on board. Maybe we should get some U.S. senators or congressmen on this to push in the federal government to help push this along. But now's the time to get it done. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Dick Rozicki. I live on Grand Island, and I've been there since 1970. I think all the points that everybody's made, the backup, the issue with the finances, the cost of crossing the bridge, is everybody agrees with that. I think our politicians in Albany have taken Western New York for a ride, and they continue to plead us as long as they can. The institution of tolls, I think, is a good idea, but I think we all believe we should have no tolls. The state has promised to take the tolls off since 1996. They haven't done it. So I think what we all have to do is push our political leaders to remove those tolls completely and make the access between Western New York easy to flow through on a daily basis. Thank you.
Sir.
I'll give it a try. Hi, I'm John Dudley. I live on Grand Island. My parents moved to the island when I was 8, so that's, I added it up, it's 51 years I've been going over the bridges and paying the toll. I remember we used to have the little pass books, and the kids, we like to, Dad liked to tear it part way, so it was easy to get right through. So it's been my whole life. I've seen Grand Island grow into just a tiny bit more than it is right now in 50 years. It's so hard to get business on the island. I'm in the entertainment business. I've tried to get people to come to the island to events. Very successful businesses can only do so much. There's only what's the population? 21,000. I don't think that's much more than it was 50 years ago.
No.
And we have one grocery store and no produce on Sundays. So it's a big dig to the business on the island, but that also hurts us. We have less in the way of supportive services. Hey, come on over. Where do you live? Grand Island. Oh, that's far. They think that's far, but it's not far. I mean, it takes, to get to Main Street exit off of the 290, it takes me exactly 12 minutes. Okay, so all my friends over there would maybe come to the island if they could get over, if they could get here and help us build our economy and Niagara Falls economy. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right, once, going twice. We're going to hand it
I'll
over.
take a shot.
Okay.
And again, Tom Marchevs, I lived in the island for 27 years. When I got here, they had Black Rock tolls. Didn't follow much of hockey, but I'm a season ticket holder for the Sabres. And I think about how difficult it was when my kids were young to go downtown and get those Black Rock tolls and backing up all the time. And now I just go to Sabres games. I'm down there in 13 minutes. Get home easily. I don't have to deal with the tolls. I can't imagine what it'd be like going to Sabres games from here if the tolls were still there. And again, I think that's the kind of inhibition we're talking about. And I think about, I work in Tonawanda, I live in the island every day, especially in the summer, 15 minutes sitting in traffic. Take every one of those cars and add up the time lost. Integrate that cost versus putting in the toll system. I mean, our time is worth something. Is our time not worth something, right? So I mean, you take all those losses, all those truckers, all those extra minutes, all that extra gas, all of our time. Time you can't take away. You can't replace time. So I think again, it's a very important thing to get rid of. Again, I think of the Black Rock situation and how that opened up downtown Buffalo, and I think same argument here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Appreciate your work.
That's not my thing.
Well, we have a phone up here. We will hold that until the end. Rest assured it won't be taken. There you have it. It's a nothing short of a hostage situation at the tolls. This is an issue that doesn't just affect Grand Island, but it affects the region as a whole. And to that effect, I believe we have one elected official here who I'd like to introduce, Town of Tonawanda Supervisor Eminger.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. Good evening. There's passion in this room, okay, and that's what gets things done. People have to be passionate about their cause, okay. Most people who got up here tonight, they focused on the economic impact. In Tonawanda, it's not only an economic impact, it's more so an environmental impact to us, okay. The gentleman before me just spoke, okay. You sit in those lines trying to get over to Niagara Falls or going over into Canada. You see the traffic backed up from the toll bridge all the way up back into the Youngman. Okay, the people who live in those communities over there, over near the Huntley plant, the closed Huntley plant. Okay, they have serious health issues that have been impacted. Okay, the closing, the removal of the tolls is a issue that has been to the forefront for the town of Tonawanda officials as long as I've been on the town board for the past 11, 12 years. Probably goes back further than that. Supervisor McMurray and I, we came on board as supervisors the exact same time in January of last year, 15 months ago. One of the first things we did, we didn't know each other before we entered office at that time. We called each other up. We said we'd like to sit down. And we got together with Mayor Davis in the city of Tonawanda, and we drafted a letter, the three of us, and we drafted a letter to our state officials. And we said the time for the tolls to come down is now. And we told them not only is an economic issue for the Grand Island residents, there's also an environmental issue or environmental impact for all of the residents in our community. And the price of your health has no cost. Don't tell us in Albany that the cost is too high. because health is worth more than any cost that there is. Okay, so we will work together, your elected officials locally, and we will work with our state elected officials. And with your help and your determination and your passion, they're going to be coming down. I can guarantee that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Gosh, where's the microphone for him to drop? That was where.
A politician who didn't talk enough. Go figure.
There you have it, folks. This is an issue that is ever present. We're not going away until there's reaction here. I'm hoping that we can expect word from Governor Cuomo's office with some resolution to this issue. This means something. It seems to me it would be well within his power to pass the word down that the tolls are going to be shut down. That's what we want to hear here. We're not out to attack anyone. We're not out for blood. We just want the tolls gone. That's as far as this goes. I'm so grateful to see everyone here tonight. On behalf of the movement, I'd like to thank everyone. And yes.
I was just going to say I have a statement from Senator Jacobs that is going to.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, please, by all means.
Sorry about that. Appreciate it. I have a copy for you as well. Just real quick, sorry, folks. My name is Sean O'Neill. I represent Senator Chris Jacobs, the 60th Senate District that covers Grand Island. He has a letter that he'd like me to read since he won't be here, since he's in Albany. So I'll just read that real quick. Dear Brian, thank you for inviting me to this forum and for being a strong community advocate on this very important issue for the residents of Grand Island and all of Western New York. Unfortunately, the state senate is in session and I am unable to attend. However, I wanted to share some information on my efforts to remove the tolls. The ultimate goal we should all be striving for is the complete elimination of the Grand Island tolls. That is why I have introduced legislation in the New York State Senate to eliminate the collection of tolls at both Grand Island bridges. My colleague Assemblyman Angelo Morinello has introduced the same legislation in the New York State Assembly. The Grand Island bridges are the only way Grand Island residents can get to and from their homes. Alleviating congestion, reducing pollution, and increasing safety will enhance the quality of life. The section of the Interstate 190 between the two bridges connects the largest cities in our region and upstate New York's two largest tourism destinations. Failing to eliminate the toll booths will enable them to continue to act as an economic barrier between Buffalo and Niagara Falls. Earlier this year, I wrote Governor Cuomo and the Executive Director of the Thruway Authority asking for the implementation of cashless tolling at the Grand Island bridges. As I stated, our number one priority is to eliminate the tolls, but I am not backing down from my call for cashless tolling here on Grand Island. Absent the outright elimination of the tolls, the only reasonable alternative is cashless tolling, which addresses many of the issues alleviated through removal. Cashless tolling is successfully being utilized at more than 35 bridges, tunnels, and toll roads across the United States, including by the Thruway Authority at the Tappan Zee Bridge in downstate. The only bridges under the Thruway Authority jurisdiction without the benefit of cashless tolling are the Grand Island bridges. Thank you again for organizing this public forum, and I look forward to working with the community to achieve a solution that benefits the residents of Grand Island and Western New York. Sincerely, Chris Jacobs, New York State Senator, 60th District.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A couple things in closing. Please follow us online. We're going to be, yes.
The question I have is, will there be a time when the Albany politicians will be able to come before a forum and face the general public and get
Yes.
some question and answer periods going on?
Yes, we're going to be putting this show on the road here, actually. Erie County is next stop. In about a month, the end of April, early May, believe it or not, I too have a life outside of this. We're going to be putting together a forum. It's structured slightly different than this, although anyone certainly can attend, and I encourage that. I hope each and every one of you will consider joining us. I want to structure it to be a business and leadership forum. Let's hear from not just the elected officials from Albany, let's hear from the business community, how this affects them, their employees, commerce for their business personally. Let's get their perspective on it. All the details for anything coming up is proudly displayed on our website, gibarrier.com. We're also searchable under Facebook, Twitter, and even a GoFundMe page under GI Barrier. There you'll have the latest and greatest on our efforts, and I hope that you'll continue to join me as we go on this journey to eliminate the tolls. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time tonight. For those of you who spoke, you might need to spell out your names for the media. They do like to get that correct. So be wary. Whose phone was this?